anyone who wants to ask more. Okay, we switch with 1 minute delay. We switch to a very nice, other cool project that somehow is aimed at decentralizing governance, and in this case for dApps. They are Italians, and the name is DFO Hub. Marco and Alessandro.
Hey, hi all.
Hi everyone.
So first of all, I want to start by saying something about the Parallele team and the Interspace, because I I really think that this is the good part of coronavirus, because they are making the Turin community more inclusive and as never before. Because before the Interspace and before conference like the non-con and ETHTurin, was very difficult to follow Ethereum community conferences, for example, to the internet, and so it was more exclusive because people had to pay to go to travel the world and to follow the community. So very nice job, guys. And so share my screen. Okay. So let's start. Can I share my camera too? Is it possible? I can do non-con. Yeah. You see my camera and my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So cool. This project is a research project we care very, very much. The title of this talk is "The Next Wave of Startups Without Founders," and this is basically what we want to achieve. And so, just a sec. I have to. Okay. So we talked about this in the non-con. So I talked very, very quickly about the behaviors and basic stuff. So to create a different kind of content. So if you want to see the basic of this idea, I already paste the link from YouTube from the non-con conference. So what makes decentralized network unique? So what's the real key point of decentralization? And from Vitalik, the last DevCon, cryptography lets us to prove things without assumption about behaviors. So with cryptography, we can say that this data is real, but something that is the key apps of blockchains, especially in Ethereum, is the concept of crypto economics that lets us to prove things without minimal assumption about participants. So we can transact things and we don't have to trust people and so do things totally anonymously. So this is something that we call censorship resistance. So that is the combination of anonymity, so we don't need to have account info with the unstoppable networks, so they're not hosted by a well-known organization or people. There is a community-driven governance, so there's no owner that can decide what the future of all of it, and with open source code. So what you see is basically what you get. But the most important part is the crypto economics, so the maths behind these networks. So we are at the beginning. So there is a ton of smart people in the world that are focused on finding killer apps on top of the Web3 on top of Ethereum. But we think that it's not all about the use case. So we are trying to find disruptive standard to empower dApps in all of the Ethereum community. So we have the first wave of dApps where there are basically smart contract for backend, some distributed front end with the EPFS or even in the Web 2, and a standard DNS. And now we are researching for this kind of second wave of dApps where there is smart contracts, there is a distributed front end like the first wave, DNS in some ways, ENS, and DAO with some kind of limited governance. But dApps are in R&D because these standards that we saw is not the long-term standard for dApps. It's a standard for now because basically it's easier because it's more similar to the Web 2.0. And so the problem in dApps is that dApps today, they have a lot of FUD, so fair and settled on dot, because we have some question about anonymity, because a lot of dApps are shady about the front end, so you are not sure that if they can track your IP, where they are hosted, and so on and so forth. Some dApps are not totally unstoppable right now because the issuer can fail, or EPFS can lose the file or can be forgotten. And about the community-driven governance, you can vote things, but the dApp itself in the hand of the issuer, because they are people that can kill the contract, they can fork it, or they can do whenever they want. So your power of voting is very limited. And about the open source code, you can check the backend for sure because it's on Ethereum, but developing is still very, very centralized right now. So this is the bad dApps issuer approach about these questions. Because I think that the dApps issuer, they need some standards to build their dApp, to build their killer apps, and to be sure that all of these problems are solved. And I think it's very important because this is what happened today. So this is far better than Web 2. So because we are on Ethereum, so we have a very cool crypto economics. And so the layer of transfer things is very, very decentralized. And the core team is actually engaged in building the best general purpose and secure system ever. But we can do better. There is some text challenge to create dApps that totally respect the basic principle of Ethereum and the basic principle of decentralization totally. Because we have a fancy worldwide computer, and we can do things anonymously, trusting code deployed by anonymous people. So this is the problem. We need that team right now to manage the dApp, because this is the standard today. And so we started our research. Is it possible to achieve startups developed and managed by anonymous without need to trust each other and to know each other and to know who built it up? So we say, okay, that's a challenge, and we developed something that is very interesting in the basic layer. So it's about the idea to use a proxy contract, so we can start to update the dApp, and Mark will show you better how, without need to fork the dApp. So without need a small team of people that can fork it or that can manage it, but with vote. So every small pieces of the dApp is not only about microservices, so it's better because it's more secure and it's more reliable, but it's about voting. So you can, so in this research we made, you can vote for every part of the dApp, and you can change it, because the proxy based smart contract, they routing for different smart contract, the community selected, and if the smart contract without is not served by the dApp itself. So this is basically very useful because you can achieve microservices programming in Ethereum. That this is the best thing ever, I think, because the problem of Ethereum is the monolithic way of code. And at the same time, for the first time in the history of coding in Ethereum, you can be wrong, because you can edit by vote smart contract. You can change it with another one if there is a bug or something. And this is very interesting today. And for the front end, because in this kind of standard for dApps, we worked from obviously ENS, Ethereum Name Services, and how to create a standardized version of the front end deployment. So you have basically two layers, the distributed layer and the decentralized layer, and automatically the ENS redirect from the distributed layer if there is, and if there aren't, he started to routing to the decentralized layer. So basically, distributed layer is classic EPFS or Web 2 layer, but totally transparency because everyone can check the code and everyone know where this NS will go. So what you see is what you get. And the decentralized layer is base64 on-chain layer. So you can deploy the front end into the chain. And I think this is important in the future because it makes dApps really, really unstoppable. So this is why we are this kind of new dApps are very unstoppable, like the Nokia 3310. And because the mission is to don't need a team to manage dApps. So you can deploy the governance rule and stuff, and you can start building a dApp without need to trust other people because you have only to trust the code. And why we are obsessed in that? We are obsessed in that because we strongly believe that we can discover the Ethereum killer apps with this kind of new anonymous and inclusive developing. So without need to have teams and stuff that this is in some ways a really huge problem in Ethereum today, we would think. And one other important thing is that we can easily build dApps faster without needs of costly stuff like auditing and this kind of stuff, because now you can make mistake and we can remedy my mistakes. And another important thing is that we don't need a foundation with this new kind of dApps to manage money, because people can manage directly the fund of the dApps by voting, and this is quite cool. And like for example, the ENS. I love the ENS project. So they can do what they are doing, not by a foundation that manage money, that they manage well, but directly from a flexible organization on chain. So this can be more transparently and more secure for people that love this technology and that they want to follow it. And another important thing is to make tokens of project totally independent and unstoppable from dApps issuer. What I want to mean that if the dApps is unstoppable, so the token of these dApps, so the voting tokens or other token they create inside the dApp, this can be as the same principle as Ethereum or Bitcoin, because nobody can stop you to use the application. And if the token have value or something for the function of this application, you can stop it. You can stop the value of this kind of tokens. And now we have deployed the DFO Core Protocol 1.0 on mainnet, so you can start making DFOs and help us on bug fixing. And the DFO Hub, so the hub to build, manage, and do things on DFOs. That is a DFO itself. It's on beta 0.1 at DFO.chat, and we have a roadmap in our Notion that you can help us, because we have a reward program and everything to have a distributed development and not centralized development for a small team of people. And what we want to do now from this is to create some kind of task things. So an organization totally on chain can vote for create tasks and reward for tasks, and people can do the things done with this coding task, and automatically when they are done, people can vote if added or not in the DFO, in the organization. This is quite cool because you don't need a team that take the code and deploy it in the application. And this is very interesting. The IBO, the initial boosted offering, so it's a new kind of funding. There's not about, I found these guys because I trust it, but it's about you as a DFO, as an organization, you have a lot of tasks, and so investor can directly boosting their tasks with their Ethereum. So they can say, I love this application, I want this application, I really trust and I want this token of this application. So I boost task and receive tokens. And so boosting tasks, they are faster in developing of this application. So I think it's to reduce scam as much as possible. And the legal stuff. So it's about to take other smart contract and create an interoperability between dApps with the same smart contract. It is quite interesting. And so it's time for Marco, I think, to talk more deeply in the project.
Thank you, Alessandro. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay, and let me show my camera. Okay, so you are going to see my screen, I think, and also my camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marco. I work with Alessandro on this amazing project we are going to share with you today. So our research and development activities started several months ago when we made us a question. Can Web 2.0 and Web 3.0 cooperate, or are they totally enemies? Let's analyze the state of art of both technologies. For example, in Web 2.0 applications are really fast because of cloud computing, but the Web 3.0 applications are decentralized. It means that they are natively distributed, and the calculus is, of course, decentralized. In Web 2.0 applications, we have microservices, which are extremely modular and easy to code. In Web 3.0, we have irreversible actions. So the blockchain is up and only, you know, so you can just insert new information and you cannot delete other information. All the information. This means that for example, if there is a bug in a smart contract, the entire smart contract, called as monolithic application, must be forked to solve just a simple bug. This kind of stuff is totally bypassed in Web 2.0. In Web 2.0, we have censorship. Everyone can start and stop services and make a service unavailable. In Web 3.0, we know that this cannot be so possible. And of course, we have anonymous applications. In Web 2.0, the applications are fault tolerant. So if there is a bug, developers can be easily update the bugs. In Web 3.0, we cannot do this, but we have a more powerful weapon called distributed consensus, which can let a community, for example, take important decisions all together. In Web 2.0, there are development stack really consolidated because it's really old and, of course, full of bug fixes. In Web 3.0, we are just at the start of this amazing technology, so we have an awesome plane of a lot of research and development projects. So, what we want to do with our research projects? We want to take the best from both technologies to better build a better Web 3.0 application. So we, for example, can take from both environments a lot of qualities and fuse them together to create that thing that we call decentralized flexible organization, or DFOs. So we are now, I'm going now to talk about DFOs. What are DFOs? DFO means decentralized flexible organization, and they are DAOs under steroids, we like to call that. This because they are resilient to bugs. The DFOs are DAOs that can be extendable, so we can extend the capabilities of a decentralized application just because they are based on a concept we invented called smart contract as microservice. Every functionality of a DFO is a smart contract programmed like a microservice and plugged in or out to applications, to decentralized decentralized applications. Everyone can propose new functionalities to add or remove from DFOs, and everything is driven by community. So the community can decide if a functionality can be introduced in an application or decentralized application or not. So what is DFO in detail? DFO is a bunch of smart contract, kind of interoperability smart contract environment, where there are several smart contracts which cooperate each other to avoid, of course, monolithic and dangerous programming approach, and to let everything work smoothly into DFO. Every smart contract of DFO has a single responsibility, so it just take care of a part of the application. So let's check them in detail. There is, for example, a smart contract called Functionalities Manager, which of course manage the functionalities. The functionalities are simple smart contracts, okay, in detail methods of smart contracts. So you write a smart contract with a method inside, which is a functionality, then call the Functionalities Manager of DFO and attach it to the DFO. So the Functionality Manager just manage all the functionalities of the DFO. When you create a normal DAO, you create it with some functionalities, okay? In DFO, when you create a DFO, you don't have any functionality. The Functionalities Manager is blank. Then you can attach functionality step by step when you need it, or remove or change in case of bugs, for example. So every functionality in DFO is can be considered as a microservice, and where everyone can deploy the business logic. And when the business logic is deployed into the smart contract, you call the Functionality Manager to attach it. Every functionality or every smart contract in Functionalities Manager have a code name, which can be considered, for example, as an endpoint of the Web 2.0. So you have the REST API and you reach the business logic. In DFO, every functionality has a code name which can let the Functionalities Manager to reach the correct smart contract that contains the business logic. Who can create, remove, or replace functionalities? Almost everyone, but not directly. Every user just proposes a new functionality to be added to a DFO, and the community will vote for it. So I create the smart contract with the functionality. I call the DFO to propose it to my community. The community will vote to accept or not accept that change on the functionality. So when the survey ends, so I created the functionality, I propose, a survey starts, people vote that survey, then the survey ends. When the survey ends, there is a special functionality inside the DFO, which can be changed, of course, with the proposal, that contains the rules of governance of that DFO. So every DFO can have their governance rule, its governance rules, and of course, which decides if functionality can be accepted or not, totally automatic, totally in a transparent way, totally anonymously. How can the community vote a proposal? Using voting tokens. When you create a DFO, you also create a voting token, which is a plain, simple ERC20 token. And to vote, everyone must stake the their tokens to accept or not accept every single proposal. Every time a survey ends, accepted or not accepted, according to the governance rules, you can take back the voting tokens you staked. So everyone can hold voting tokens, use them to vote, then take them back. So these are all the smart contracts of the DFO. There is another smart contract called Stakeholder Manager, which you can consider it a little database. For example, it contains variables, which are all the data useful to let a DFO to work. And of course, everyone can read the stakeholder, but only DFO functionalities can write into it, so can replace variables, update values, and so on and so forth. So the last DFO contract is the most, I am going to show you, is the most important, and it is called Proxy. Because it is the most important just because it is the only one the user will interact with. So the DFO proxy contract represents the DFO itself. So when you create a DFO, you also create the proxy, and its address represents the DFO to the rest of the world. And the user will interact only with this contract, and no one can, and the proxy will call all the other delegates smart contract we already saw to, of course, act the business logic of that DFO. So when you need to propose a new functionality, call the proxy. When you need to run a functionality of the DFO, call the proxy, and so on and so forth. Every smart contract of the DFO is also interchangeable. So if there is a bug, for example, into the stakeholder, you must propose to change the stakeholder, and everything by voting can be changed, also the proxy itself, but everything will still work smoothly. Okay. So these are a little explanation of what DFO protocol is and what we are going to do in our research and development work. And we want to do more. We are doing more. For example, we implemented a kind of protocol, kind of guidelines to keep every DFO every time always available, thanks to ENS and concatenated base 64 chunked data directly saved on chain, which means that every piece of source code of your decentralized application, decentralized DFO in both backend and front-end side or smart contract code can be saved into the chain, not on distributed layer, to keep it always available. But we want to do more. We want to improve the DF protocol thanks to the community. We want the community to propose us new improvements, to find bugs, and to propose fixes to the bugs. So we are available to ask to questions and changes on our protocol. We did more. We created DFO Hub, which is a DFO, special DFO, that can create and manage other DFOs. So if you go on this address, https://dfohub.at, you can access to our dashboard too, that lets you create or manage or view other DFOs. So you can list, for example, all existing DFOs on or enter the details of every created DFO, or, for example, use the simple wizard to create your own DFO, following, of course, the instructions, and, for example, choosing the right governance rules you want to give to your DFO. For example, you can have a community-driven governance rules which releases voting tokens for every member that will propose new bug fixes to that DFO. And of course, you can watch the progress of your proposal, of proposals realized from other members of the community, and for example, directly watch in a totally transparent, censorship-resistant way all the edits to the code of every DFO functionalities to understand if that is a good proposal or not, and decide to vote for accept it or refuse it, and so on so far. So thank you for paying attention. And Alessandro, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I think the last slides about Goku and Vegeta, it's very cool. So this is a hard for you, bro.
Bro, I think that my camera doesn't work well because I have an error message. I don't know if you can see me.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
So if you can go to the next
slide, yes.
The next slide. Basically, this project is not about a company that make a project on top of Ethereum or boring stuff like this, but it's a totally community-driven project. So we are developing every basic that we need to build this project totally with all of the Turin community as they want, and basically without need of us as a founder. So we can stop doing this project and the project can go on in the future. So we developed a community-based developing. So with using GitHub, Notion, Google Docs, and especially Discord. So you can join our Discord server now, and you can. We started with the bug fixing, and with the next version and next version and next version, we will bring all of this project totally by its own community, and because basically it's our culture. So if you want to join our bug fixing right now, you can join our Discord server, and there is all of the linear experience to start helping us and to start rank inside the community and become a core researcher or core developer like us. So it's not about a company or a small team of people that do its things, but it's based and developed by to be a community-driven project totally. And this is why I think it's very important for a project on top of Ethereum that try to create some kind of standards or some kind of things that other people and other projects will use. And so I think we try to be very, very fast in explaining all of this. And so right now it's time for Q&A. So because it's your show time, guys.
So is there any questions from the audience?
Guys?
Yeah.
Can I? Hello?
Sure.
It's a very interesting project, DFO Hub. I have a question. For you, in your opinion, what is the incentive to vote in your application in DFO Hub? Because in general, in the DAO ecosystem, there is a big problem about voting. I remember that in majority of the cases, a lot of people that have a governance token doesn't vote every time. So your organization is about voting a lot of times and a lot of decisions. Which is your opinion about this? What is the incentive to vote every time?
I think this is a great question. And you mean for DFO's Hub or for every DFO?
DFO
DFO.
Hub.
Okay.
And every DFO.
Okay.
Child DFO.
So basically, the incentive to vote in DFO Hub is basically because you are developing this project and you want to make, for example, voting tokens more valuable in the future. And we don't talk about money at this time, but there is a lot of interest in the future and for people that working on it, but it's not made by a company or stuff. But the most interesting things to answer this question is about the programmable governance. So every DFO like us in the future can totally programmable their governance by voting. So they can create a lot of different kind of incentives to vote and to participate into the community. I think this is a very interesting field to research and development. Because right now we research very, very slow there because there are standardized DAO like Maker and so on. And when we start to create a community-driven community-driven DAO like DFOs, there will be a lot of R&D there, and will be very, very interesting to see what will happen.
I have a question.
Yeah, we are
Alessandro, Marco, which are your next steps?
Yeah, well, right now we have developed very, very carefully the core, and to make everything upgradable and to make easier for community to join the code, to be rewarded, and to try to make these things better as possible. And next steps I showed in can I share my screen if it's possible?
Yes, I will shut down mine.
Okay, so my screen is there. Okay, to go to the camera.
Okay.
So, okay. So we are interested to improve the proposal standards in the future by community, and the tasks are a very field that we want to make a huge step forward there, because I think that anonymous community really needs a system of tasks to propose tasks and reward for tasks, and people without need to be knowed or without need a team that deploy the code, they can do tasks, and this task can create automatically a proposal. And so if the community say, okay, this is done well, automatically is added in the DFO functions or stuff. And I think this is a very, very step forward for anonymous community that don't need to trust each other to create the dApps. And another important thing is the concept of IBO that we called it the IDO in the past, but it thinks IBO is better because it's less correlated to some scams. And so it's the idea of boosting. So if you don't trust a team or people, you have to be sure that when there is an exchange of Ethereum for tokens, for voting tokens and other stuff, there's no human needed to make choices. So the needs and boosted offering are an empower for D tasks. And so a DFO can create various tasks. And an investor can say, okay, I love this project. I think this is the future. So I can invest in this project not by give money to people, but boosting the tasks in this project. So these tasks don't have only, for example, voting token as a reward, but voting tokens plus Ethereum. And the investor take some voting token to have invested in these tasks. And so this is quite interesting because that can create a wave of new kind of funding that is not based on people and scams and so on.
Guys, Sorry, another question about a new project, about funding. Right now, the moment is very, very full of projects about new types of project fundings in Ethereum, like reversible ICO
Yeah,
or other
yeah.
projects. So why, in your opinion, right now there are a lot of these types of projects, right? Yours.
Yeah, because it's the problem in the apps ecosystem is that it's very difficult to start an apps project because you need a lot of money, you have a lot of legal problems, and so there is a kind of interesting stuff because we have in one part we have traditional business way to do dApps, and in other part we have decentralized a new way to do for example stuff, and and there is a mismatch between two because we are in open source, so you can't create old school business model, but some investors are more focused on old school business model, all Silicon Valley like business model. And I think that this problem of new kind of funding, a new kind of stuff, is to generate a new wave of dApps that are more independently as possible by a startup or company in general. And so I think the next trend will be totally anonymous dApps, because you don't have to, the investor don't have to trust by people or to a regular business, and at the same time startuppers can do things without legal problems, because there is some legal problems that are important. So you can't create derivatives but on the blockchain, and I really care about these things. But there is another legal issues that are not linear with the core concept of open source. So I think it's quite interesting to see what will happen when people can join the conversation and build apps without know each other and without create some kind of business like a company or a foundation. I think this is quite interesting, and I want to see what will happen in the future about this trend.
I'm right if I say that your baseline is building DFO, building by the bottom from the top. It's a project totally community driven. Make immutable anonymous DFO to make anonymous and immutable dApp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not so anonymous in the starting, because there's no DFO before us, so we are not so anonymous because you can see our face. But
you are being stupid.
Yeah.
And
the most interesting thing is that we don't have the full power in this project from the beginning, and this is quite cool.
And the most important thing is extensible, so it can be it can grow with the community. It can grow and progress with the progress of technology, of course.
So you are turning on a community-based project.
Yeah, but yes. The coolest things, as Marco said, is that right now there is a very weird view of project on top of Ethereum, because someone said, okay, I put the dApps in the on chain, and everything had to work for years and years and years and years. But this is not how technology works, because technology is about to improve application, is about to improve the coding standards, is about to solve bugs, and it's not like to, I don't know, not technology business like make shows and sell it to people. It's very, very different, and so I think the problem of dApp right now is that they can't be updated, they can't be fixed, they can't be managed without a small team of people that can forget. And from DFO to the future, you can do this as a community. I think this is the most amazing part of this project and something that is very, very cool.
Thank you.
Other questions, bro? Someone?
Sorry, I was managing also other rooms and Discord in the meantime, but I tried to keep an ear on what you were saying. Did you talk already about liability and legal frameworks or not?
No, we don't talk about it.
Okay. Then a question is, as long as we had like other talks yesterday, focused on management of power and legal frameworks, embedding crypto, etc. We were talking together a few weeks ago, and you were saying that you've been cited by some legal advisors regarding what you're doing, etc. So, how are completely decentralized dApps sort of liable, or what's your white paper claims in terms of legal liability for what happens within a 100% decentralized dApp?
Yeah, basically, we don't have a white paper. We built this application because we didn't do an ICO or scam stuff, bro. No white paper, doing stuff, code on Ethereum. We don't need a white paper to do things.
You're from Bologna. Name it Manifesto then.
BYDL, Casper's coming, Serenity, a news way to go. You remember it? That was pretty cool. I think it was the DevCon 3 or DevCon 4. I don't remember it. By the way, DevCon 4, yeah, right. Yeah, BYDL, that's it. Very, very cool. I was exciting hearing that music. Matteo, this is a great question because we are as Ethereum Foundation, as the legal framework. I think in the future we will be the same as the Ethereum Foundation, but more decentralized in this kind of developing and stuff ways, because we don't manage things about the foundation, but we manage things basically by voting and this kind of stuff. And I think there is for legal, we are developing this kind of application. We can't manage or do things for a lot of people that basically create application on top of DFOs and stuff. But I think it's quite interesting other application of DFOs rather than anonymous people that create apps. For example, I think in Ethereum there is two kind of way to build apps. There is the startups way to build apps and the hybrid way to build apps. And this is more interesting for big businesses and stuff. And I think the microservices driven way to build apps on top of DFOs, that can be quite interesting. For example, in the concept of DLO, so decentralized legal organization. I think because, for example, I don't know, legal hackers or people that are more in legal stuff, they can create some kind of legal standards for smart contract, and the people that have that work on a DFO can say, okay, I can take this basic smart contract to do a decentralized business in my country or other kind of stuff. So there is a lot of use case and project on top of it. This is a general purpose standards to things. It's not focused on one using or things. So thank you for the question. That's a very interesting part of it.
Right. I think that you can also solve it like the way you said, like advertising it as a general purpose structure. You are not entitled to identify yourself within a legal frameworks specifically.
Yeah, but I think there is a lot of interesting R&D there. I wrote an article, I think this August, about it. So I think basically it's about the future where I don't know, some country or stuff, they can say, okay, if you want to do a decentralized business, this is the standard legal framework as a smart contract, and you can implement in your DFO, for example, easily. And so you don't have to have legal or real organization like a company, but you can work as an organization in a DAO or a DFO. I think there is a lot of R&D in the future there, and it's a very interesting part of.
I'm also looking at Discord right now, and so there's the track where I pinged you in, talking about urban gardening, urban gardens, DAOs, etc. And someone pinged us with colony reputation tools that they are using on LeapDAO. So maybe that these the legal frameworks can be auto-determined by just implementing some reputational tools, which can create like a liquid and dynamic constitution as the people go by and vote for it. Because it's actually very interesting, because it opens like totally a new world of responsibilities and liabilities, etc. But it could this is something that I would really like to deep dive into it.
I think this can open a really good R&D there, because right now to build a DAO, it's very difficult. So you can't do a lot of R&D in DAO basically, because you have to program there from the beginning, and you can try, for example, a new way to do quadratic voting or stuff easily. And I think that simplify as much as possible and reducing the monolithic problem of smart contract today can bring a very highly R&D in the future. And so we can challenge a lot of things, and we can see a lot of new ways to think quadratic voting, standardized voting, legal voting and stuff. So there is a lot of things to do. And I hope you... can I spam our Discord for the community in the... Oh,
we have 5 minutes left.
Okay. So if there are another questions, we are here.
I mean, I was actually the one who put the link in with me being from LeapDAO, and actually wrote that blog article.
Ah, there you are. Okay.
So I would say we had very good, for us, working as a DAO works quite well, and that we have clearly defined bounties. We are organized holacratically, and we have experimented with a reputation-based system for the last half a year roundish.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment we're just distributing reputation. We haven't really put on a reputation-based voting system yet.
Okay, but these are tools that also maybe Diora are keen on sharing.
Yeah, but something that is very interesting is to don't have a community or a small group of people that deploy the application and manage the application. It's about a community of anonymous people that can decide and upgrade their governance rules and everything about the dApps directly on chain, without need to have a specific team of people that develop the DAO or something. So this is quite our goal, rather than I think we are very focused on the long run. We are not focused on the short run to help people now, but to create something for the future that people can really enjoy, and that everyone are sure that everything that's happening on Ethereum, I mean, the centralized part of Ethereum, right, just like server on Etherscan and stuff, this kind of application will not die, and people can trust it to 100%. So this is our challenge now.
Right. Shall we start to wrap up? Do you want to give some links, references, and maybe if you have any events or webinars or?
Yeah, we don't have any events right now, but we have created the Discord community, I think yesterday. So this is the first time we spam our Discord community in our history.
Please.
And so if you want to join code, there is a ton of ton of community rewards to do things, and especially to be known here and to rank as a developer. We are open for every developer who want to help us here and to do this. And because our form of governance is centralized now, but we have a step-by-step decentralization of it in the coding. And you can, it's designed from the beginning to don't have powers as a founders, so everyone can join and improve it as the world want. So this is our things that we want to do.
We can also share the community guidelines. Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, spam. Okay. The more spam, the more it's good.
Okay.
Sorry, Matteo.
No. Feel free. Also, if you want to ping your server on the ETHTurin server in
yeah, sure.
This is fine. Just
okay.
Do it, Alessandro.
Okay, so where you can think in the ETHTurin server is the best place to share it. Because I shared it in the Interspace, and I don't know in ETHTurin where is the best.
You can share it on Interspace, and you can share it in ETHTurin in general or introductions as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Matteo.
No.
And
okay, then I say we can close this talk if there's no further questions and move to the next one.